talked about um, how outlets have alternating current coming out of them. Remember when we played with LED lights, and one of the characteristics is current only goes one direction through a LED. Like it doesn't go the other way. Well, that's kind of a rough thing when it comes to alternating current, because the current goes one way and then the back, going back and forth 60 times a second. But with an LED, current can only go one way. So these are LED lights, by the way. I propose to you that these are flashing on and off 60 times a second. Okay. Based upon the frequency of alternating current. Oops. Produced by a generator. So here's my proof. If you watch these, you can kind of see them strobe a little bit, like a strobe light. And as I spin them faster, you can see them in one spot and not in other spots. They're flashing on and off. That makes sense? Alternating current. All right. So the rest of the day is showing applications of what we were talking about yesterday. So the fact that I'm asking this question, if I was sitting in your shoes, I'd be like, well, that's an obscure question. I'm going to guess yes, because why would you ask? So if we look at the basic components of a motor and a generator, they're essentially the same thing. You've got a magnet with a magnetic field, and you have a loop of wire. The difference is, in the motor, we hook that loop of wire up to a battery and allow current to go through it, okay, which causes it to spin. With a generator, we make that loop of wire spin, and we cause electricity to be produced. So they essentially have the same parts, but opposite functionality depending on what you make the wire do.
Fixed to the loop of copper wire. The commutator rotates freely, rubbing against the brushes. Now, when we pass current through the circuit, this creates a magnetic field around the wire, which interacts with the field of the permanent magnet to produce a rotation of the loop that looks like this. The electric motor and the electric generator are related like two sides of a coin. In general, the task of an electric motor is to convert electrical current into mechanical force. On the other hand, an electrical generator converts mechanical force into electrical current. So as you can see, we can simply rearrange our motor into a generator. In this case, we will provide the mechanical force with a windmill rotor attached to the loop and connect a bulb in place of the battery. We will leave the magnetic field as it is, and as the wind rotates the blade, an electrical current is produced.
Cool with that. Okay, a demonstration for you. Let's see, where are we going? All right, so what I have here is a hand crank generator that I'm going to hook up a Christmas light to. As I turn this generator, okay, Christmas tree bulb lights up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take another hand crank generator and I'm going to hook that up to our original hand crank generator. Okay, go to that. Brock, go ahead and hold that. Mine being a star in our video. Hold that over your head so everybody can see that. All right, so as I turn this, making that spin. Crazy. Okay, so why is that working? So as I turn this, I am spinning the loops of wire in the generator. That's creating current. I'm putting mechanical energy in. I'm getting electrical energy out. Over here, I'm putting electrical energy in, getting mechanical energy out because I'm putting current that goes in the wire loops, and that experiences a force and causes it to spin, to turn, to move. It's the same, they're the same device, just opposite functionalities depending on what you put in. Okay, so you can take any, okay, so think of it this way. Anything that you plug in or put batteries in that move has a motor. If you take that device and you make whatever thing was moving move by yourself, you are turning that into a generator by making whatever would move. Just like here, making that move, producing electricity. Pull that. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, I'm not ready to go back there yet. All right. Microphones and speakers have a similar relationship. Okay, so a microphone. This is, so when you talk into the microphone, there's a cone, a voice cone, a diaphragm that is able to vibrate with your sound waves. Okay, and that diaphragm has behind it a voice coil or a coil of wire wrapped around in a tube. And as that vibrates, it also causes the coil of wire to vibrate. But it just so it happens to be vibrating in a magnetic field produced by this magnet. Okay, so this coil of wire is experiencing a changing magnetic field. What happens when a conductor is experiencing a changing magnetic field? Creates voltage. Okay, here's just a quick suggestion. The foundational facts, 1, 2, and 3, knowing those and being able to like identify, oh, that one's talking, that's an example of this one. Oh, that's an example. That's a really good skill to have for the test. Okay. So you have a conductor and a change in magnetic field induces current if it's hooked up to a circuit, which it is. That current that's produced is alternating because it's going back and forth. Okay. And that alternating current is sent to an amplifier. The microphone's plugged into an amplifier, which strengthens that signal, makes it stronger. And then that strengthened signal is sent to a speaker. A speaker, all that is a wire that's wrapped around a cone here, or a cylinder that's in a magnetic field. So now you have current flowing through an already existing magnetic field. What happens when current flows through an external magnetic field? Foundational fact number 2. Camden. Oh, you were showing me. You had it right. Experiences of force. Yeah, those foundational facts come into helpful there. Okay, experiences of force. Now, if the current's going one way, it experiences of force. But if the current goes the other way, the force is going the opposite way. So the current, because this is alternating current, it's changing the direction. It causes the speaker diaphragm, which this is connected to vibrate. And this is what you see. And this is what creates sound waves. Cool with that?
Just a plastic membrane. Stuck to the membrane, a copper coil. The coil is inserted into the magnet. When the current circulates through the copper coil, it creates an electromagnetic force that pushes on the coil. By changing the direction of the electric current in the coil, we change the direction of that force. So, the coil is pushed one way when the electric current circulates in one direction, and the opposite way when the current changes direction. Since the coil is attached to the diaphragm, where one goes, the other goes too. This interaction is the key to understanding how a speaker works. All of this happens in a fraction of a second, because the current changes direction very quickly, up to 26,000 back and forth times a second.
Yep. Cool with that? All right. In the back, I have some demonstrations. So join me if you will. All right. So, first off, I have some speakers that have been donated to science.
What?
They're like, we've dissected them. Okay, so if we take apart a speaker, here, it's red stuff. That is the voice coil. That is the copper wire that's wrapped a whole bunch of times around this Okay, so this is the conductor that's experiencing the change in magnetic field, or experiences the magnetic field. The backside of the magnet, sorry, the backside of the speaker is the magnet. Okay, if you ever held a speaker that's heavy, it's because of the magnet. Okay, the orientation of that magnet looks like this. So if you have a horseshoe magnet, South Pole and North Pole, and we're gonna like kind of rotate that around and kind of smear that horseshoe magnet around this. We've got an island in the middle. We've got a moat here, and then surrounded by the North Pole. Okay with that? Can you visualize that? Okay. That's the same thing that's going on in here. This is the South Pole island. Okay, the moat is really skinny, but it's just wide enough for this voice coil to go in there. Okay, pass these around. You can kind of see firsthand. You can pull it apart. They don't work anymore, so don't worry about destroying them. All right, so what I have here is a just a regular speaker. Okay, on a speaker, you've got two electrical connections here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hook these up. Oops, sorry guys, there you go. Two electrical connections, and I'm going to hook these up. Okay. And I'm going to hook them up to our green power supply. So when I turn on the current, what do you think is going to happen? See it? Moving up. What do you think will happen if I switch the direction of current? Cool with that? So depending on the direction of current, one gets forced out, the other one gets forced in. Okay? Now check this out. I'm going to hook this up to these yellow knobs here. What are those? AC. Didn't even know those were there. Okay, alternating current. Okay, now when I turn this on, this is vibrating up and down 60 times a second, which corresponds to the frequency of alternating current. And you can come and feel this vibrating. Put your fingers on that. Not a shocking thing. Okay, now that is the note that's produced of 60 hertz. It's creating sound waves at that frequency. Now, that's kind of boring to listen to, okay? But the idea is there, okay? So when I hook this up to a stereo, so what I've done is I've taken the speaker wires and I've cut them. Okay, I'm just going to hook those up. Not what I want to hook up. Keep the speaker hooked up. I don't know what would happen with that, but that's not good. Yeah, not too expensive. This thing's kind of. All right, so when I hook this up, okay. So what's going on inside these wires? Like when I break this, do I hear like beep, 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 like what's in here? What information? Like how are we passing this information? Through wires, through alternating current. Okay. Here, this was producing alternating current that had a steady back and forth of 60 cycles per second. This, it's changing all over the place. It doesn't have a constant frequency. It's changing depending on the notes. Higher notes goes back and forth quicker. Lower notes goes back and forth slower. But these vibrate, so I can hold this. Good question. The question is, how does it play both at once? So it can get, you can have something vibrate. How do I say this? It's like compounded vibrations. So you can have like something going slow and vibrating at the same time and produce a high note and a low note simultaneously. It's like stacked. It's like, okay. Mm-hmm. Yep. So a popular question is like, how do I make my speakers louder? So the easy answer is turn up the volume. That's your physics way. All right. So physics-wise, what is that doing when you turn up the volume? Reducing resistance, which causes what? And decreasing the current. Okay, so you have more current flowing through the voice coil. All right with that? Okay. Back before we destroyed these, we could take this other speaker magnet and we could stick it behind here and make the magnetic field stronger, and it would make the speaker louder. Okay, but here's the reality. You can make your speakers louder, but at some point they weren't designed for that, and they're going to blow your speakers. I don't know if you ever heard a blown speaker, but really what this is doing is ripping this diaphragm. Like it physically tears. So when you hear a blown speaker like boom, that's this flapping in the wind. Okay, so if you want louder speakers, go buy bigger speakers that were designed to handle that. Does that make sense? So it's not like check it out, I hacked this. No, you didn't. You just got a temporary loudspeaker, and then you're gonna have a dead speaker. All right, last demonstration for you. So this demonstration works sometimes. So what I have are two speakers. Whoop, where's the other one? There's that. Two speakers. They're wired together with a long wire. Okay. Rocky, go. Let's see. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to see if it works. Talking to that, Brock. Perfect. Okay. So it's currently working. All right. So what you're going to do is one person's going to talk into it, the other person's going to listen to, and then switch roles. Pass it around. You can say hello.
Oh, I hear it. It's like those games on the playground that you like scrape into. Hello.
You talk into it like, all right, I'll give you something to say. Say hello in a foreign language. There you go.
Hola. So
I mean, you can hear it. Just listen close.
Hola.
Let's do it again. Keep passing it. Do you hear it? Let me know if you can't hear it because it could be.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear this?
Can I go outside?
Sure. Just be fragile, like it's fragile.
How do I? What's the best way to go? Hey, Disney. Goodbye. How close? I have to go closer. How close do I have to go?
Just make sure we don't break the cord.
Are you speaking or am I talking? We'll both talk. I don't know. You can go first. You go first. You go first. You.
Oh, good cut. Good catch.
Hello. Yeah. I mean, I can hear you talking normally. Yeah, it does. I can hear you. Josie, say something again. What was that? All your walkie-talkie talk.
Okay.
She said, "Do you read me?"
All right. Anybody else like to try? Did not get to try. Anybody else?
Yeah, when you stop.
Hello.
When you said all this.
Okay. Now, so this is similar to like the old school telephone, kid telephones. You got the two tin cans, the string in the middle. Okay. In order for that to work, you actually had to have the string tight. Here, this is definitely not a tight string. Okay. Um, what we are doing, what this is demonstrating is these were designed to be speakers. Like they're sold as speakers, but you can make one of them a microphone if you talk into it, because a microphone and a speaker have the same parts, just different functionalities. Does that make sense? Now, the reason why it wasn't loud is because we weren't sending the signal to an amplifier. If we sent the signal to an amplifier, then you could hear me talk like I'm speaking into a microphone. It's just not very strong. That make sense? Have a seat. Crazy.
We were in like kindergarten and first grade. I remember that. And then I'm not coming in first grade. Yes, but never.
Okay, give this one a shot. Tell your neighbor what you think.
There is two.
Correct answer is? Correct answer is B. B. Bountiful buffaloes. All right. So a microphone is taking the sound waves and causing it to move, which the voice coil is experiencing a changing magnetic field and causing a current.
Why is it not like how is A not in it? Because like why is it not a speaker as well?
So they have the same parts, but the speaker takes electrical energy into it and vibrates in response to that. This is we're taking sound waves, causing it to vibrate, which produces electrical signal. Yep. Okay. Cool with that. All right. While I show a video, we're going to multitask here. I've got two flashlights that are batteryless. It doesn't have a battery. So, see if you can figure out how that's working. That's one. And yeah, that's a shaker. Okay. So
It's like the flashlight from the horror games.
actually, we'll start this one over here. All right. So while that's going, you know the magnetic strips on the back of your credit card? Magnetic strips on the back of your credit card. Okay. Those work in a similar way to how your hard drive on your computer stores data. Okay. It's a magnetic signal, like a different combination of north south 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 north that is on your credit card. Okay. So check out this video.
Ribbon of wire, isn't it? Imagine every picture you took over the past year, all saved within the area of a single dot of ink from a ballpoint pen. Well, this is approximately how compact data is stored inside a hard disk drive. And in this video, we're going to open one up and see how an entire library worth of books is able to fit within the surface of this metal disk. We'll start by opening up this hard drive and detailing the components inside. After that, we'll dive into exactly how the drive stores data using the read and write head. And in the process, we'll look at the tracks, sectors, and magnetic domains of the metal disk. Finally, we'll explore some of the latest advances that enable over a terabit of data to fit within every square inch of the disk. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. More on them later, but for now, let's jump right in. On the inside of this drive, we find a variety of components. Here's the disk, or platter, that stores all the data, and depending on the storage capacity of the drive, might be multiple platters tall. The disk is composed of an aluminum magnesium alloy with multiple coatings of other alloys, but the magnetic functional layer is this 120 nanometer thin layer of a cobalt chromium tantalum alloy, which has small magnetic domains or regions whose direction can be manipulated via external magnetic fields. The platter is mounted on a spindle which spins at a speed of 7,200 RPM, using a brushless DC motor at its center. Next, there's a head stack assembly, with one arm above and one arm below each disc, and with a slider and a read-write head.
Okay, as you listen to this, see if you can identify your fundamental facts. 1, 2, and 3. Okay.
At the end of each arm. The slider is uniquely designed such that it catches the airflow generated by the ludicrously fast-spinning disc and uses the airflow to float or fly the read-write head so that it's only 15 nanometers or about 100 atoms away from the surface of the disc. For reference, here's the thickness of a sheet of aluminum foil. Because the arm assembly flies on top of the spinning disc, it's only brought over the surface when it's at full speed. And when the disc is not spinning, the arm assembly is parked to the side on a small piece of plastic. Back here, a voice coil motor composed of a coil of wire and 2 strong neodymium magnets above and below is used to move the entire arm stack assembly. When electric current is run through the coil, it creates an electromagnet, which is influenced by the neodymium magnets, thus generating a force that causes the arm to move across the disc. When a reverse current is sent through the voice coil, the arm is forced in the opposite direction, thereby enabling control of the exact position of the read-write head within 30 or so nanometers. Additionally, the magnets and voice coil make a rather strong motor that enable the lightweight arm stack assembly and read-write head to move back and forth to different tracks across the platter up to 20 times a second, and to make small adjustments incredibly fast. In order to connect to the read-write head, a flexible ribbon of wires is routed along the side of the arm and down to this connector, which feeds signals to the outside of the hard drive enclosure and to the printed circuit board or PCB. On the PCB, we have the main processor, as well as a DRAM chip, which is used as a scratch pad for the processor and a buffer for the incoming and outgoing data. Additionally, mounted on the PCB is a chip for controlling the voice coil and brushless DC spindle motor. And then on the edge of the PCB is a SATA connector, which connects to the motherboard for communications, and a separate connector which goes to the power supply. Additional important components are the gasket that seals the disc from the exterior environment, and 2 filters that catch any stray dust particles. These filters are necessary since the read-write heads are just 15 nanometers away from the platter, and a single dust particle can be up to 10,000 nanometers large, and could cause major damage if it were to collide with the 7,200 RPM disc. Now that we've looked through many of these components, let's see how they work. To begin, the disc is divided into concentric circles of tracks. The latest hard drives can have more than 500,000 tracks on just one side. These tracks are then divided into sectors, and in each sector is a preamble or synchronization zone, which tells the read-write head the exact speed of the spinning disc and the length of each bit of data. The next part of the sector is the address, which helps the read-write head know which track and sector it's currently positioned over. After that, we have the actual data that's stored, typically 4 kilobytes of data per sector. Next is an area for an error correcting code, or ECC, which is used to verify that the data stored in the block is accurately written and properly read. And finally, there's a gap between this sector and the next, which allows the read-write head some tolerance when writing the contents of a block. Now let's zoom in on the read-write head and the disk to see exactly how data is written and read. Writing data to the disk is done by manipulating the direction of magnetization.
Okay. This is true for your credit card, and hard drives. Like this is the magnetic strip on your credit card.
Of a localized region or domain of the cobalt chromium tantalum layer in the disk, and forcing the region to be magnetized in the up direction or the down direction. This tiny magnetic domain or region is around 90 by 100 by 125 nanometers, and when magnetized, all the atoms will have their even tinier magnetic north-south poles pointing in the same direction. In order to magnetize a single domain, which is equivalent to writing a single bit of data, a current is applied to a coil of wire at the back of the write head, thus creating a strong magnetic field back here. The magnetic field is channeled through the write head and focused into a small point at the tip, and then jumps across the 15 nanometer air gap and into the disk. When the focused magnetic field passes into a single domain of cobalt chromium tantalum, all these atoms are forced to align their tiny atomic magnetic fields with the applied magnetic field from the write head, thus turning the small domain or region into a permanent magnet. The key is that even when the write head is moved away, the direction of the magnetic domains in this layer of the disk is maintained for years, and they emit a permanent magnetic field which can be repeatedly sensed by the read head every time you read out the data stored in this sector. That is, of course, until the computer and write head rewrite a new bit of data to the domain by either flipping the direction or keeping it the same. Let's explore how we read.
That makes sense. So when you swipe your credit card, does it work if you go slow? You gotta go fast. Why? You gotta make a changing magnetic field to induce current. I recognize swiping your credit card is gonna go away here pretty soon. Next 5 years, everybody's gonna have a chip, but good with that though. So bringing magnets near your credit card, bad idea, because you can rewrite you can mess up your signature, the magnetic strip. Well, that's all I got today.
Range of RPM to hard drive.